Welcome everybody to episode 233 of the effing title. I am your normal host, Big Husky, and this week we got something a little different, as you can see from the screen, and we got someone a little bit different. We brought someone back because we like talking about this. We're enjoying this. Rob is here with us. Rob, hi.
I'm here all the time. There's nothing different about it.
So, for everyone that doesn't know, we've been watching
My name's Rob.
the UFL. We've done a couple different podcasts. This just me and Rob with the UFL, and we thought, you know, what would be kind of cool is to do a mid-season update, right? Kind of just give you guys at home a quick little video that you can watch that would get you caught up on the 5 weeks that we've had so far in the UFL. And overall, just before we even start looking at standings and everything, I would say that so far it's been good. First 5 weeks been good.
Yeah, I mean, last week's kind of an outlier, but it's been, for the most part, entertaining football, and merging the two leagues together has obviously led to a very, I know it's been discussed a lot, but a very big increase in the actual quality of play. Like, QBs aren't getting sacked every 10 seconds, but I will say they're really getting tested now because of the amount of injuries that have started happening over the last few weeks. But yeah, as far as like O-line, D-line play, it's been a lot better product. Like, QBs aren't having to, I mean, especially me being a fan of a team in the XFL that was passing the ball every play was it was kind of frustrating to see him run for his life every darn snap.
Yes.
So, but it's so it's definitely been much better than when there were two leagues, and the ratings have actually, since they merged, have been better than either of the leagues on their own. So.
Yep, I mean, St. Louis set a spring football or spring league, I guess they called it, not even spring football, spring league record with 40,000 people in attendance, which isn't surprising, and that's something we'll talk about potentially at the end here. But so we're gonna take you guys through. We're gonna just give you guys, standings. We're gonna hit you guys with some little looks into each one of the teams, kind of what we've seen, because I've watched almost every single game. I think I've missed maybe one game. I know Rob has caught up on most of the games and watched most of the games as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. We're just basically gonna give you guys a quick little hit on what this has been like so far. So the first thing is, let's take a look at the standings. So the standings to start with in the USFL, right? Because there's the USFL and then there's the XFL. Those are the two conferences. So in the USFL, the Stallions are 5-0. The Panthers are 3-2. The Memphis Showboats are 1-4. The Roughnecks are 1-4. Kind of how I thought, at least me, myself, how I thought the USFL would go. That side.
I agree. I'm looking something up because I saw a tweet the other day that I didn't end up looking up when I wanted to, but I saw a tweet that said, and it can't be right. Like, I don't think it's right, but it said, no one from the XFL has beat a USFL team yet. And that can't be right? Like, that's wrong.
Yeah, no, that is wrong, because the Battlehawks have beaten Memphis. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100% sure we beat Memphis anyway, because the only team we lost to right now is Michigan.
Did you just play? You didn't just play Memphis, though, did you?
No, we played. No, we played. We just played DC. Yes, that would have been. Because, like, if we go, of course now.
I saw it, and then, like, at the end they were like, "Who was the better league?" And I was like,
so I mean, week 1, USFL. Those are both in division. Yeah, that's bullshit as of week 2.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
the Brahmas beat the Showboats.
Yeah, makes no sense.
And then the Defenders beat the Roughnecks. Okay, yeah.
I didn't think it was true, but
well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, with some of these leagues, well, there's so many, not so many, but there are some times where like little statistics like that go almost unnoticed, or like they're just like, for instance, St. Louis just beat DC in DC, and that's the first time a team has won in DC. Ever in the entire spring league. So it's like that's one that I didn't even know was a thing until it came up. And then speaking of XFL,
now here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
No, never mind.
Okay.
It wasn't. I was gonna say, does that go back to the Washington Generals as well?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, because it was one of those things where I was gonna say I wasn't even sure if it would go back to the first iteration of the DC Defenders when they had Cardell Jones. I'm not sure if it was even back then. But then we look at the St. Louis. Then we look at the XFL, and the XFL is St. Louis in the lead right now of 4-1. The Brahmas are also at 4-1, but St. Louis has the tiebreaker over them. DC is at 3-2, and Arlington is at 0-5.
Which, by the way, we will not get into the tiebreakers until the end of the season.
Yes.
Because if you remember the XFL tiebreakers last year, it's an absolute cluster.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we did a podcast on the XFL last year, like towards the end of it, and I'm pretty sure like that was one of the things we talked about was just how much of a cluster it was. So
yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, we're gonna politely decline on that one to talk about that for right now. But yeah, so little interesting here. It's one of the things we'll talk about later, but there's a little interesting on this side. The XFL, I feel like, is a little bit interesting. I thought we were going to see the Battlehawks above everyone else, and everyone else kind of fighting that next range. And instead, we just kind of we have three teams kind of fighting it out at top, and surprisingly, our reigning champs are they're struggling. They're struggling in the XFL. So,
okay.
But so that's the standings. So now what we're gonna do is we will take a look at each one of the teams a little bit. We'll just talk a little bit about them, what we've seen so far, what we haven't seen so far, and that's gonna be the next part. And we'll start off in the USFL. So starting off, we're going to talk about the Birmingham Stallions, the best team in the UFL as of right now. They're just, yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, this is the best team in the spring league, the spring football has ever seen. Not specifically this team, but this franchise, I'd even say. They've lost 3 games in 3 years. I think am I correct with that one? I'm pretty sure some.
I think it's less than that, to be honest with you.
It's honestly it's absurd, and it's not like they've done it with the same quarterback. They've done it with 4 different quarterbacks as of this point. Right now,
different running backs.
And different running backs. I mean, and it's all led by Coach Holtz, and he is just doing his thing, man. He is just doing his thing.
I'm actually stunned he hasn't gone back to college, getting a head coaching job in college.
I mean, it's one of those things. Like at this point, we've talked about before about the league needing faces. This is a coaching face right here. I would argue that him and Anthony Becht of St. Louis are the coaching faces of the league right now. I mean, that's a league with including Bob, Renegades head coach.
You're forgetting a big one.
Well, Wade Phillips as well. Bob Stoops.
Yeah,
there we go. Bob Stoops and Wade Phillips. Like, that's including those two, but I would argue that these two right now are the faces. Like, but the Stallions are running, right now, they're still running, interestingly enough, a 2-quarterback system with Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez. Adrian Martinez is currently leading the league in rushing yards. He's leading the league in rush yards with 302, and then their 2 other backs, their 2-headed combo, they have Ricky Pearson Jr. and CJ Marable, have 164 and 159 together. But don't just think that's all they can do. No. They also have Deion Kane, who's the 4th best receiver in the league right now by yards, with almost 300 on the dot. The defense is lights out, and it's interesting because I just clicked defense and immediately total tackles. There's no one on there because that's not what their team like. They play all together. Like that's their thing. They're one unit. No one stands out really above all of them. Carlos Davis does lead the league in sacks. Kind of a little misleading because that one game they had where they had 7 sacks against Memphis a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Birmingham is they run the football, so the other team is already limited in how many possessions they have.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of why you don't see anyone leading in tackles or anything. And then the other part of it is they're winning a lot, which means teams are throwing a lot, which means you're going to get more sacks, more incompletions, and less chances for tackles. So it's kind of why all those stats go hand in hand there.
Yeah.
But it's they are the most complete team by far. They don't hide from it. They're gonna run it down your goddamn throat, whether you like it or not. And
yes,
good luck stopping it.
That is team number one. Like, there's just no stopping them. Then we go to the next one, which is kind of an interesting one. We go to Michigan. We go to the Michigan Panthers. The Panthers are an interesting one because the Panthers offensively
are hideous.
It's rough. It's rough goings. However, defensively, this team is a nightmare for people. The defense is just on fire right now. Let's see here. There was one thing. Frank Ginda, their middle linebacker, has 32 tackles. I'm pretty sure they have someone on the... Yep, Breland Speaks, who's one of the best pass rushers in the league, has 4.5 sacks. And on top of that, they also have the interception leader right now in Kai Nakua with 3. This is literally the defensive team. E.J. Perry is their starting quarterback right now. 600 yards passing, 664 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then their rush game is starting to get going with Wes Hills, who is the number 2 rusher in the UFL with 225 yards. So, yet again, kind of another old school sort of team. They're going to run the ball, and they're just playing good defense.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure almost every one of their games has been like a 1-score game.
And, of course, how can I forget about this? They have the best kicker in the UFL in Ryan Bates.
In sports.
64-yarder, week 1, to win the game, iced, no time on the clock sort of thing. And then just every single week since then, he's just been lighting it out. So, great job by him, especially not kicking since high school. So, great job by him. But the Michigan Panthers, their offense is lacking, but they make up for it fantastically with their defense and with their field goal unit. So, then we go to Memphis. So I don't know, Rob, if you've watched many of the other podcasts where we talk about stuff. We have a new segment called "You Can Leave." This is one of those ones, and this is gonna sound harsh, but I genuinely think that John DiFilippiano, the head coach, he needs to leave. It's just there's weeks where, like, they played the Stallions a couple weeks ago and they got massacred. Like I said, like it was like 8 sacks sort of thing. Like, there was no time in the pocket for Case Cookers. Case Cookers was just getting lit up. There was no adaptation to changing stuff. It continued to be deep throws, deep drops. Just, yeah.
And they're not the worst team. So...
No, they're not. That's the crazy thing. Like, they're 1-4. I don't remember exactly which team they beat. But if I have to guess, it's probably either Arlington or the Roughnecks. I'm actually intrigued now, so I'm actually gonna look.
I'll pull it.
Roughnecks. They beat the Roughnecks in week 1, 18-12. So,
they started 1-0.
Yeah, they started 1-0. Their quarterback is not on the top 10.
Which is funny because there's only 8 teams, guys. That's why it's funny.
Oh, that's rushing. My mistake. The quarterback's 7th. 592 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's Case Cookers, and Case Cookers has been sacked 13 times.
That's good.
1-3, 13 times. Yeah, it's just rushing wise, they have Darius Victor, who has 131 yards. He's number 12 on the rushing boards. Receiving, they have Dawood Davis, who is their main guy. Jonathan Adams, who's been coming on recently as well. Because I know from this last game you did.
No one's coming on in this team.
And like that's the thing is like I was gonna say defensively even I don't know
you're spending a lot of time on this team. That's awful.
I know. I just want to give every team a little bit of time, you know. But like I said,
you're too nice.
I am.
They're terrible.
Like I said, after the Stallions game, it looked like they were trying to get the quarterback hurt. Like, there was no adaptation of the game, no screens, no quick throws, no nothing. Let's just keep running 5-step drops and everyone running 15-yard routes. So,
Remember how we just said the Panthers were really bad on offense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they scored 35 against the Showboats. It's time to move on.
Yeah. So then it doesn't get much better now because now we go to the Roughnecks.
Another terrible team.
The Roughnecks are also the 1-4 team. This is the actual Houston Gamblers, but they just went with the Roughnecks name because the Roughnecks name was better than the Gamblers. I'm also assuming they just didn't want to have Gamblers as their main thing. But yet again, this is another one. This team, they don't really have like player-wise, and this is the thing. Reed Sinnott.
Talent?
Well, like this is the thing is it's like there's certain like at least some of these teams have like some QBs. EJ Perry, Reed Sinnott, and Case Cookus aren't really guys that have shown much, and it's crazy to say it because Reed Sinnott is actually 4th in the UFL in passing yards.
That's because they're losing.
And it's also because he's the only one that's played for them. I'm pretty sure. So, but it's like you would expect him to at least like they would at least be able to do something. 4th there. They have the 9th best rusher. They have the 10th best receiver. Like, it's just across the board. The only thing they really have going for them, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to be like, no, they don't. The only thing that they actually have going for them is their kick return guy. That kick return guy is very good. That's it, though.
Does he won him a game?
No, that's the thing. I was like, he ain't that good. He ain't that good. But that's the USFL, though. Like we said, the USFL is dominated by the Stallions, and then we have the Panthers, who are defense and kicker, and then the rest of the USFL is, the rest of the UFL is interesting. So, but now we're gonna look at the XFL, where things are a little bit more to talk about overall every team. So now we get to my favorite part of this, which is the XFL, as you guys can tell right now. With I got my Battlehawks shirt on right now, Rob. So St. Louis Battlehawks, we're 4-1, baby. This is a team that coming into this, we knew this was going to be one of the better teams in the UFL. I would argue, and they've proven that.
Yeah.
If anything, they've only gotten better with the addition of some players from the draft and from other teams. AJ McCarron has 1,051 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jacob Sayers, 224 yards, rushing, 2 touchdowns, and we just had to put Mateo Durant on IR. He had 134 before that. And then receiving, we have the best receiver in the league with Hakeem Butler, who has 344 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Marcel Aitman is 11th with 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, defensively, Will Harvey's doing great. Sack-wise, Pita Tamopenu. I think I did that right. 4 sacks, and then interceptions. Mike Rose, the linebacker, has 2 interceptions. He's 2nd in the league. Overall, just a fun team to watch. Great environment, great atmosphere when they do play.
In St. Louis.
Yeah. This, in my opinion, this is a team that has the potential to knock off the Stallions. We will see in week 8. I think it is. I think it's week 8, week 7. We'll find out, but they haven't played yet. But That's the like I said, Battlehawks the best team in the XFL side, in my opinion. I think they're the second best team in the league. But
they're good. Don't get me wrong. I do think the team that we're going to talk about next will have something to say about that. But at the same time, honestly, the biggest concern I have with the Battlehawks is their lack of a running identity. They're very much a finesse team where they rely on misdirection runs and things like that to run the ball.
Yep.
Which can be terrifying when you get into a big game against a good defense and you need 3 yards on the ground.
Week 1, baby.
You're going to drop back and try and throw a slant against press man-to-man when you play against good teams. Doesn't always work.
Yep.
So, we'll see. We'll see if they can find a way to keep improving that. I mean, the season's only halfway done, so they can obviously find it in the second half of the year. But I do think that's where I think the second team that we're about to get to has an advantage, actually, over the Battlehawks.
And the second team is the San Antonio Brahmas, the surprise, in my opinion, we'll talk about later on, of the entire league. The Brahmas are 4-1. 2 quarterbacks because the starter Chase Garbers went down. Before he went down, though, 586 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then the backup Quentin Dormandy, who is the starter for the Guardians in the XFL last season. He has 433 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Though he threw a lot of interceptions this past weekend. So, but rushing wise, though, they have John Lovett, who has 194 yards and 4 touchdowns, just a little bulldozer of a back there. They also have Anthony McFarlane, the speedster that most people know was a Steeler for a little bit, 92 yards. I think he got hurt though, so he'll be back later in the season. And then another one of the best receivers in the league here with John Trey Kirkland, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Marquez Stevenson, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. Defensively, interceptions, no one on the board. Sack-wise, they have Wyatt Ray, who's a name that should sound kind of familiar. But then this is the thing that's impressive, is they have the number 1, number 2, and number 5 tackle leaders in the UFL, with Jordan Mosley, Tavon Beckett, and Jordan Williams. Defensively, they fly. This has been a fun team to watch play. They have an identity now. They're starting to do stuff, and it like before it was like, okay, this is just a team that's here because the Brahmas, Dwayne, Rama Bull. Now we're starting to see an actual team show up.
Yeah, they're it's the best way to say it is they are a early 2000s, late 90s football team where
there we go.
They will very West Coast style where when they throw the ball, it is not down the field. Everything is quick. Everything's methodic. They drag games out in the sense that it's a lot of first downs. And then the difference between them and I'd say a team like Birmingham on defense is Birmingham will play a lot more in your face, aggressive against past teams where they can cause turnovers, right? And the Brahmas sit there and they play bend but don't break, which is why they have their defense is on the field a lot, which is why they have so many guys in the top 5 of tackling, because they just constantly are running, but they're very fast and they're able to get the job done.
Like I said, a lot of fun to watch this team play. And then we get to the next team, which has been another one that's been, like I said, this is the side that's interesting, in our opinion. DC, we get to the DC Defenders. DC obviously lost Abrams in preseason to an injury, so they've been playing the season without their starting back, and it's showing. The flaw has been shown now. Tomu has still played okay. Tomu is 888 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but a 50% completion percentage, 52% technically, which is right now, from what I'm looking at, out of the top 10 passers, is the worst. Second only to Adrian Martinez at 56.
Yeah, and again, so the defenders last year in the XFL, they were a team that was built very similar to Birmingham. A lot of people said they were the XFL's Birmingham, where they run the football, take deep shots throwing it, and then they play really aggressive defense.
I mean, you look at this as well.
They can't run the ball.
Yeah, I was about to say that, because Cameron Harris, 48 carries, 140 yards. Jordan Tomu, 25 carries, 130. And then Zaquandre White, who I thought was going to be like, okay, cool, that's the guy that's going to take over. 25 carries, 66 yards.
Yeah, they cannot run the ball. And because they can't run the ball, they're asking Tomu to put it on his shoulders, and he's...
And their receivers aren't doing it. Kelvin Harmon, 17 catches for 237 yards. And then Ty Scott, 8 catches for 152.
I mean, you say that, but think of how many yards are those? 8 catches for 152. That's 20 yards a catch.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. They're
17 for 2 something. That's
13.
Because that's their offense.
Yeah.
Their offense is they throw the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't run the ball, you're not going to have a high completion at those because they're not open. It's contested catches. And then their defense, they only play man-to-man and blitz, so they're playing all these other teams that just... All these other QBs that you listed off, the games they've lost are the teams that short, quick passes.
Yep.
Short, quick passes.
I mean, so they have the number 2 sack leader in Malik Fisher, who had a couple sacks this past weekend, had a big game against the Battlehawks. Derek Robinson is 3.5, and then other than that, tackle-wise, it's 36 and 36 for 2 different players in Michael Joseph and Anthony Haynes III. Kicker-wise, they have arguably one of the better kickers, because all these kickers, every time when I say this, by the way, everyone, the league has done very well with kickers. The kickering in this league has actually done very well this season. Matthew McCrane is 10 for 11 with a long of 58.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's solid. Even when we were talking about Jake Bates is 7 of 9, but he hit a 64-yarder, and I'm pretty sure he hit a 60 and a 58 as well. So but that's where DC is and that's kind of one of the things that we thought about as soon as we saw the news the Abrams went down. It was is this team going to be the same thing? And we're seeing that they're not. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the second half of the season goes for them now. And then the final team, and yet again, one of the more interesting ones, is Arlington, the reigning XFL champions, 0-5.
Yeah, I mean, they're a pass-happy team that can't pass protect or can't really throw the ball.
I mean, yeah, Louis Perez has 1150, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, he's thrown the ball 161 times, 62% completion percentage, and then their best rusher isn't in the top 10.
I mean, the thing that's hurting them is, again, they're a pass-happy team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not 2 leagues anymore, so all these teams have better secondary players as well.
Yes.
So when the field gets shorter, when you get into the red zone, they're playing against better players, better athletes. The windows get a lot smaller, and
now
those touchdowns are now things that were touchdowns last year are now field goals.
Now what we are seeing is a lot more
turnovers.
Lindsey Scott coming in on the goal line, and I like it. I like Lindsey Scott coming in on the goal line. The problem is, though, is that when they bring him in the red zone sort of thing, it is a lot more he's running the ball. Let the kid throw. Let him throw. Give him the same package you would give Perez, but let him have his own little running stuff. But don't force it in, because right now they have J.P. Payton, 247 yards receiving. Tyler Vaughn, 239 yards receiving. Sal Cannella, 164 yards receiving. Deontay Burnett, 146 yards. Like, it's like insane what they're doing passing wise. But like we said, the rushing attack for them is so bad that it's the defense is led by Donald Payne, one of the better linebackers in the league. Sack wise, they have the third best guy in Jalen Redmond with 4.5 sacks. And interception wise, they have 5 guys with 1 interception each. So yeah, it's an interesting one seeing them go from being the XFL champions to 0-5. But like what Rob said, when they're mainly passing, but every team has gotten better. And also, let's be honest here, Arlington got hot at the right time last year too.
Oh yeah, they were a playoff team. They shouldn't have won the title.
Yes,
but they did.
So, but that is that. So now the next part is actually going to be a nice little thing here. So we're just going to be talking about biggest surprises, the biggest letdown, and a breakout player. I said player instead of players, but still. So biggest surprise for you so far in this? What would you say is your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise would be, I'm going to go negative with it.
Okay.
But the fact that Arlington's winless. I didn't think, again, I think the only reason they got into the playoffs was because of the XFL's weird formatting for playoffs. But at the same time, they did just win the darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of the same players back. So I figured that at least, I thought they'd be like DC was, sitting at 2-3, 3-2, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're winless is, and it's not like they've been heartbreakers that they're losing. It's games that they just are getting beat badly.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like even if it looks like a heartbreaker, on paper it's not when you watch it.
It wasn't. They were down by 13 and they scored.
Yeah.
At the end, like it hasn't been close. So that would be my biggest surprise.
My biggest surprise is going to be not Arlington. It's going to be San Antonio. It's going to be, I'm going to stay in the XFL. I'm going to say San Antonio. I think that just them being a 4-1 team and them being and I won't say dominant, but them being very good at what they do. They know what they want to do this season, and they're doing it right to the T. The Chase Garber's coming out of nowhere. I can't wait for him to come back to keep seeing him do well. As we've said it in the past, we would like to see players in this league, like as much as we love seeing AJ McCarron, as much as we love seeing like Jordan Tomu. Seeing players like Adrian Martinez and Chase Garbers, players who haven't been known well to the football world, actually starting to do something. That's what we like to see, and that's what that's my biggest surprise is them so far. But biggest letdown though.
Oh, biggest! So we're supposed to go positive.
Yes, we're supposed to go positive the first one, then the second one. So if you want to switch it up now, go with your biggest surprise, you can. I'll let you.
Nah. My biggest letdown.
Doubling down on the neck downs.
Is Jordan Tiamo.
Okay.
100%. He went from being someone who was an MVP candidate in the last league and someone who people said should have been on NFL rosters to, if a team signs this kid, they're idiots. He's not even good enough to be on a practice squad, and he really shouldn't.
Yeah, he's. I'm not going to.
He's an average XFL or average UFL quarterback.
Yes, I will agree with that. I do think that I'm not going to agree with the idiot part, but I will agree with he went from being a guy that should be the face of the league to being just another face of the league, like just another guy. Like,
he's a face in the league.
Yes, he should have been one of those guys that like this is the dude. Him, AJ, the Stallion logo by itself. My biggest letdown is going to be, honestly, it's going to be Memphis. With the way that roster looked, especially after the draft and after everything, like they got a lot of players, and I'm sitting there like, God damn, like this team could be This team could be like shit. All right, let's go. Let's rock and roll. It's the Memphis Showboat, so it's got the legacy of it, and it's just like it just seems like every single game they're playing catch up so much, to the point where it's hard to watch their games at points, right? So that's my big one, and I kind of want to throw in Houston in there too, just both of those teams, because like it's just like 1-4 ain't a good look, bro. I mean, we just talked about 0-5, but like 2 1-4 teams, that ain't cutting it, you know. So
no, it's not good.
So then the final thing is breakout player. So I'm going with Ryan Bates. I think the Ryan Bates is like he's only 7 of 9, mind you. So it's not a great amount that we can go off of, but just the fact that like the first kick of the year is a 64-yarder to win the game is just absolutely insane. And then you do it again the next week, and then you do it again the next week. It's like what are you like? What?
I agree. That's a really good pick. Yeah, go ahead.
Because other than him, the only other one I think is one that we're going to talk about next. So why not get to it? And that is going to be MVP. We're just going to take a quick look at who right now, in my opinion. I'm also the one who made all this, so he doesn't get an opinion. In my opinion, is a two horse race, and this is the other breakout player, which is Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, I think he's had a hell of a year.
Yeah, and he hasn't even started the entire year.
That's the impressive part.
Mm-hmm. So it's between AJ and it's between Adrian Martinez. There are some people saying that I saw online recently that said that Luis Perez has now entered the MVP race. I in good faith can't put the starting quarterback of an 0-5 team as my MVP.
Oh, absolutely not.
I can't. So I think these two. I think that depending on if Chase Garbers can come back, he could make a push. Depending on what he does, if his stats stay anywhere similar to what they are. But as of right now,
I'd agree with it. I mean, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with injuries and stuff like that. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. I know a lot of leagues usually do like the player that's hot at the end, so we'll see who can all of a sudden have a bunch of great weeks to get their team across the finish line, and into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I would say right now those are the two for sure. I mean, Adrian Martinez, the fact that he is probably the leading rusher in the league, and he's also a quarterback that's thrown for a good amount of years.
Yep. So for everyone out there, so this is what we're looking at is that AJ McCarron has a 68% completion percentage, 1,051 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions passing. Adrian Martinez has half the amount of passing attempts, 56%, 603 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then rushing-wise, Adrian Martinez leads the UFL in rushing with 302 on 26 attempts. And then AJ has 12 carries for 47 yards.
It's obviously two completely different styles, but
yes, it's going to be a fun down the rest of the rabbit hole to see what happens here.
I mean, bold prediction. Whoever plays the best in their game coming up in week 7, gonna have a lot to say about it.
Yep, I agree with that. Because it's also one of those things like if AJ has a game against Birmingham and is the team to knock them off their undefeated streak, hard not to throw him in. So now the question becomes this: is that looking down at the end of this, now we're just looking forward. Playoff predictions. Do you think it is as dry cut as I think it is? Because I think it is pretty dry, clear cut right now what we're getting.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to see The only team I could see maybe making a push would be DC.
Hmm.
Um, but otherwise, if I mean the in the UFL side, like how do you come back from 1-4?
Yeah, it's those teams have a hell of a climb because they're gonna have to climb, and other teams are gonna have to fall. And I don't see other teams falling. That's the problem right now.
I mean, you gotta win. You gotta win four in a row just to get to 500.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they only play 10 games. So.
Yep. So right now, I think, and from the sounds of it, Rob agrees. Birmingham, Michigan, St. Louis, and San Antonio are going to be our playoff teams.
Yeah,
Um,
I think, like I said, the only one that could is maybe DC because I think they still play San Antonio.
yeah, they should because they play. I do believe they play in conference twice, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so
Let's see
it
here.
would be
So, yep, week 6 this upcoming week. DC and the Brahmas play 4 p.m. on Sunday.
so if DC can win that game, it'll go a long way to making a nice playoff push. But otherwise, yeah, it's gonna be an uphill battle.
Yep, and then the next one after that this is going to be a fun one coming down the road. Just looking here, coming down the road, we got Stallions Battlehawks in week 7.
Yep.
And then in week 9 we have Stallions Brahmas. So
We're gonna get a good look at the Stallions, see if they're for real.
yep,
So a point where if Adrian Martinez is really good, it leads to 2 wins. Like, how do you not give him MVP? You know?
exactly. But hopefully that helps you guys learn a little bit about what's going on in the UFL up until this point. If you guys want to get caught up, I at least I say we. I highly think that everyone should check this out if you like football. It's been fun. It's been a blast watching these teams and watching players, and then finding out about new players. Like I said, like Chase Garbers. I've become a fan of Garbers. So, but final thoughts, Rob.
Nothing. I hope it is exciting toward the end. I hope ratings stay high because that was kind of the part where there's not. I mean, they're competing with the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs, but hopefully they can keep the ratings up and keep getting good quality football because it's not really about this year. It's about can they keep it exciting and people wanting to watch next year and the year after.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So, let us know if you guys are a fan of anyone who you're a fan of. Let us know if we forgot anything, if you disagree with anything, and overall, just just let us know what you guys think so far of the UFL. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out today. We appreciate it as always, and depending on where you are, morning, afternoon, even night, stay trouble, stay safe, and we talk to y'all later. Bye.